for stopping by. I like to preface this video by saying it is not a knitting tutorial, but a means to have something playing in the background while you work on your own project. If you're like me and really enjoy having something on while you work, sometimes the content you like is very visually engaging, and you're several hours in and haven't gotten nearly as far along in your project as you would have liked to. So that's where I come in. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back. Happy Wednesday. It is the day before Thanksgiving if you are here in the United States, or if you are a former resident who happens to still acknowledge and celebrate the holiday overseas. I personally do not celebrate it, but if you remember from my last video and videos from last week, my partner is very much interested in eating delicious food on the day, and I am obliging them. My family does celebrate Thanksgiving. It is like a day to get together, a day to be with loved ones if you're in a normal situation. But I personally have more political reservations about why I don't celebrate it. Think of it as something to do, but I do acknowledge that a lot of people do celebrate it, and I think of it as a way to gather with family, a way to spend time with people that you might not typically see, and to be thankful for what you have, and try to pay homage to those people who have unfortunately suffered from being invaded and brutalized, all for the sake of religious freedom, which in turn has backfired greatly on the United States as a whole and created a bunch of bad things after that. So we just have a lot of bad history with a lot of holidays that are celebrated here. But without, being all social justice warrior, I am still going to be eating food on the day. That is a day that I have where I don't have to go to work. And I have to cook a lot of it because my partner has insisted on me preparing endless amounts of food that they're going to gorge themselves on and feel really bad after eating it because they'll be so full because they're just going to eat, get seconds, and feel very full. But in good news, I am thinking about maybe one day. It's an ambitious thought of mine, but it's been on it's been on my mind for a while, and that is to create a database of indie yarn dyers. Now, I've Googled, good old Google, did a search, indie yarn dyers, and I've seen tons of lists where it says best or top or most loved and things, and I'm like, that's so biased. It's like, why are you only limiting it to this number of people who create and dye yarn? This is so limited. I want an exhaustive list of every dyer. I want to know every person, where they are, what their site looks like, what kinds of yarns they specialize in, where they live, we're not where they live exactly, but where's the home base? Is it Canadian? Is it from the Ukraine? Are they based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico? I want to know. And so with that, I'm inclined to either crowdsource, probably very much so crowdsource at the beginning, but also data mine a lot of these articles that I've seen, do searches on Etsy, do Google searches, check out any programming from, conventions and things to gather this information so that there can be a database that's always being added to, populated, and curated. Well, not so much curation, because that becomes, I think, biased when you start to be really selective about what you do. But just a list, so like you don't have to try to search a million different places. Like, even if they are on Instagram and you don't have Instagram, at least you know that there are people that exist and advertise and promote on platforms that you might not normally use. Or if you're not familiar with Etsy, maybe you didn't even know there were people who had a presence there outside of like Ravelry or something like that. Or even if you're not on Ravelry, how do you know? So that's where I've just been like, let me see. Can I do something? Can I use some of my database management knowledge to create this? And that's part of, like, it's not really entirely what I do in my living, for my living, but I definitely have to rely a lot on database development and data mining to do some of the work that I do in my paid real life gig. So it's been something that I've wanted to do for a while. It's something I've done for my own sake, just in other aspects of my life. Like back when I first was in school, in graduate school, when I was learning how to do what I do, I made like a database for my nail polishes and was just like so fascinated by metadata and info design and everything like that. It was just like really up my alley. So, and even like, going to websites and learning how search engines are working and search terms and searchability and things like that, and always like trying to offer feedback through customer service, like, hey, as a user, I think this would be helpful. Do they ever listen to me? No, but I think it's nice to think about adding your 2 cents sometimes when you can, if you can. But anyway, one of my many lists of things that I would love to do is design that database so that I can help centralize a lot of these other things that people rely on to find dyers. And of course, if anyone was a dyer themselves and wanted to add themselves to the list, then there would be an easy way to create a form, or there would be a form in place so that you could submit yourself and be added so other people could find you. And I wouldn't want to charge, because you think time is money. What kind of effort would be involved to maintain something like this? And it could get pretty unwieldy. But I personally think that the market, like the community of yarn people is small enough that it's not going to be crazy. It's not like shoe stores. You think everybody most people in the world do wear shoes of some sort or go to a store to buy shoes. So you'd think there'd be tons of shoe stores, places that have shoes. And yes, that's true. So that would probably be a list that would be crazy long. Or a list of all of the grocery stores in the world. That's including bodegas, corner stores, large chains, mom and pops, the kiosks, at the airport that sells, fruit to go cups or something. Like every single place that has like a food source, yeah, that one's gonna be crazy big. So if you think of the scale of it, yarn is a big community, but I think once the list is initially made, it won't be crazy to maintain it. It's just getting it started. But that's something that has been on my mind, and I thought I would share with you guys that it would be so nice just to have a list that never ever ends. It's just always growing, always changing, and you can find everything you need. And it's not just like one person publishing an article where they found 99 people who are yarn dyers on Instagram, but like everybody from everywhere. So that's just something I'm thinking about on my list of all the things that Paws and Pearls wishes she had all the time in the world to do. Still have on my list like writing a book, maybe opening up my own business and having a cat cafe slash cat store with like cat themed memorabilia and all things cats because I love them so much. But anywho, today's project, back to what I was doing. Today's project is continuing with my aunt's sock. This is the second sock, so we were already very successful in making the first one. I haven't shown it to you guys. It's still downstairs. I need to bring it up here. And you've noticed from Monday's video, I am still sitting in my humble bedroom, surrounded by things that make it look like I am either getting ready to move or have just moved in. Because there's stuff wrapped in plastic, there are boxes everywhere, and they're like everywhere. And my partner is still ho-humming downstairs and hasn't touched anything this whole weekend. And I don't know what they're doing, but I'm going to give them some grace because I have had odds and ends sit around before, mainly when we moved in, and because I was so busy working at the same time, it was very hard for me to carve out time to go through and put things away and time to rest after having a very, very busy week at work because I was still new to my job, so I was still learning my job and pulling a lot of hours because it was crunch time at my job at the same time and trying to come home and have energy to unpack boxes. So they were probably a little bit peeved that there were still boxes around of my things that I hadn't put away, but I think they understood that I was in kind of a not so great situation. So I'm just not going to say anything. I mean, is that the best method? Instead of like, hey babe, do you want to like get one box broken out? Like, do you want to go through one box this weekend? Can you go through one box? Can you at least do one box? Or can you at least like list this headboard that is for sale so people can see it and maybe buy it and take it out of this room? Haven't, thought about that, but my partner is also very much like, they watch one episode of Hoarders and then magically it's like they have the bug that tells them that everything is trash and everything needs to be thrown out immediately, and then they go on like a cleaning frenzy. Like they wait and wait and wait, and then like one day it's like something in their brain clicks and they're like, get me out of here, there's trash everywhere, and it's literally like 3 pieces of paper that they haven't filed in their filing cabinet on their desk, and they're like, it's so junky. And then they look at me and they're like, why aren't you cleaning? And I'm like, what are you talking about? So they're kind of weird like that. So my guess is that I'm just going to let them live their life. The stuff's in the way, but it's not bothering me too much. It's just I can't film in my room where I usually do, so I feel a little displaced, but I don't really go in that room for any other reason now that I've moved my knitting into here to help them make room for their stuff. So I'm kind of fine. Like, it's not the end of the world. There are other things for me to worry about. However, knowing how they feel about things, I'm a little surprised that they haven't yet really nipped this in the bud and have taken care of this clutter. And it's been 2 weeks now by the time you've seen this video, it's been 2 weeks since they've had all of their stuff here, because that's how long it had been since I hadn't. Actually, I think it's been 3, because I filmed once with you guys and just told you I wasn't going to film because there was stuff in the way. And then the next week I'm like, I can't not film anymore because I'm actually like in a place where I feel like I can, but they hadn't yet cleared out the stuff. So kind of in this weird place. So yeah, I think it's been about 3 weeks now. But yeah, so we're still like this. Let me know if whenever you can see me again, if you want me to continue to have like this bird's eye view of my knitting and I'm just chatting away, or if when things are at a point where I can film and show you my face, if you do want to see me, let me know, and we can either do a little of both, or if you don't really care either way, then probably go back to normal, since that is like my place. We'll see how it goes. But for now, we're still going to be like this for maybe another week, easily. I mean, there's a lot of boxes, so I have no idea what they're planning to do in there, and when they're planning to get the stuff moved out of my bedroom. Because if this room was fine, I would totally just film on my bed like I have before, where you guys see me, and you know, we're looking at a wall or something. We have a pretty mundane backdrop, nothing crazy, but you still get to see me. But there's not even a way to do that right now, so I'm just going through with what I can. But let's see. Oops. Getting around town. Good old SpongeBob style. But yep. It's still, by the way, it's Sunday night, if you guys are curious. Monday's video and today's video have been filmed Sunday night. It's like a little after 6 now, I think. Maybe close. Oh, no. It's 7:31, so I'm way off. I had to get some of this done so I wouldn't have to be at the point where I'm still relying on the pattern book before I could film with you guys, because I just don't like to have to stop and think too hard about what I'm doing. But you see me pause every now and then for those visual cues. So like right now I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so I should have 10 on the other side when we get there, hopefully. Sometimes when I'm not even talking to you guys and I would be working on this part of a sock, I would have either accidentally knit around one too many times or did a decrease and just did a knit on the other side, so I would have an odd number on each side, or you know, like they wouldn't match up. So I'd have to kind of finesse it so that I could get back to the right amount of stitches on each side of my stitch marker, so that the sock would look normal and not be all weird and lopsided. So this side I think we're going to be okay, because we would, after knitting this round, I would only have to do one more decrease round, and then we can just knit normal. So let's try. That was across the instep, so I should have 10 before my beginning of round. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yes, 9, and 10. Woo! I'm so happy. I think this is the first time that I've actually done the decrease round and chatted with you guys. Perhaps. I feel like it has been. I want to say I always try to do that part off camera so that, like I mentioned, I don't have to try to think too hard and knit at the same time, because then I end up losing my place, even though it's not that hard to just decrease by 2 every other round. But when they start, like, that decrease round's pretty distinct, but when I kind of just glance at it, sometimes it's hard to tell when it looks like one side of the stitching has been eaten by the other side. And if I can't tell, then I'm like, oh boy. So this is my last decrease round, and then I can just keep knitting around. So then I'll have 18 on each side. 18 on the instep, and then 18 on the sole, with 9 on each side of the stitch marker. And actually for this sock, so I cast on 36 stitches for this sock for my aunt, which is the same amount I cast on for my uncle, because I was using bulky weight for both of them, and she's like a 9. She's kind of like an 8.5, 9, depending on the shoe. So I gave her the same, like, cast on for her leg, but for her first sock, I only knit to 7.5. So I cut hers down a half inch, because you're supposed to knit to 8 for her size and for his size, but some shoes we can fit, and I'm sometimes an 8, 8.5. Sometimes I'm a 9 if I really need a stretchy shoe, because my feet are kind of like wide, or like medium / wide. And so sometimes we can wear the same shoes, but most of the time she's like a 8.5 or 9. So if I knit her at a 7.5 length, then by the time I get to the toe, which I did, when I got to 16 stitches, I still knit around 1 more, so hers is like a little bit long, but not like a full 8 inches, and then started the decrease round. So she has a little bit more length, but not quite as long as a big foot for a lady. And I think because also there's a little bit of stretch that can happen with these socks, it'll be fine. Oh yeah, and I mentioned on Monday that this was Karen brand with Pantone color collab, and these are acrylic. So the paint box yarn was 100% acrylic as well, the type. And I have some acrylic socks that I knit with the Barico comfort yarn that I plan to use for my brother's socks. And I also used that yarn when I made my cousin's son's double knit sweater a couple years ago. So I think it's good. I don't wear the socks too often because they're thick, and I would normally wear them with my kind of like my Birkenstock like clogs, but I got rid of them because the soles wore out, and I haven't been wearing shoes often to go to work, let alone slip-ons. So they're too thick to put in like my normal tennis shoes, and I'd usually wear them with like my slip-ons that expose like the heel of my foot. And since I don't have those anymore, and I don't have another pair, well, I have another pair, but they're kind of like the ones I wear when I have to go take out the trash and stuff. So I would wear the socks I made with boots, because then they're nice and thick when it's cold, but it hasn't gotten that cold yet, and I don't know if I'll be having to wear boots, because they're like cute boots, and I'm not trying to dress all that cute to go to work. especially if nobody's going to be seeing me. As I've been trying to go when there aren't people in the building, I have to start going back in to my job, even though we're like closed again. But there's still a lot of admin stuff that I have to do behind the scenes that requires me to physically be there that I can't just do remotely. So I have to still go in person, which will be actually, at the time of filming this, I will have to go in person tomorrow, which will be Monday. So it'll be 2 days before you see this upload, since this is Wednesday's upload. Yeah. It's so weird how filming ahead kind of just like messes up my whole like concept of time when I talk to you guys, because then I have to try to like piece together when I'm actually telling you something and putting it into perspective from the past, talking about the future. It's a crazy one. But we had finished our decrease round last, so as mentioned, we are just going to be knitting around until we are at 7.5 inches long of foot based on the bottom of the heel, and then I will start my decrease rounds for the toe. So I imagine, since it's only like almost 8 o'clock right now and I still have to edit and everything, I don't think I'll have to spend too much time with this one, but I don't think I'll finish it before the end of the night. I might have to continue this one tomorrow for me, which will be Monday, but we'll see. But we are almost there. But yeah, I love knitting with this bulky. Now, because this is going to be more like a house sock, she might wear it with boots, but she'll likely wear it around the house. And that's fine. That's the purpose. But I think for next year, I'll go back to sock weight or sport or DK, just to get stuff done a little faster, but also allow for versatility of the sock so that she can wear it in a shoe if she wanted to. Because her shoes aren't usually like super tight, so she'd be able to get away with wearing a DK. So there we are. We have our nice little gusset right there where we picked up the stitches from the heel flap. Everything's looking pretty nice. We have a little bit of a hole here. I tried to fiddle with it, but it's not nearly as big as the one at the speckled sock that I was doing for my cousin's daughter. So like even on this side, it's not. You can kind of see it, but it's not crazy. So I think it'll be just fine. And if I really want to, when I have some extra, I can always just like do a little loop right there just to kind of tighten it up a little bit. So that'll be fine. So thank you so much again for sticking around with me this Wednesday. I hope to see you on Friday with another video. Bye!